Hello and welcome to the March or Die Show today. Very glad to have you joining me. This is a special day as this show is released. This is our Memorial Day weekend here in the United States, and thankful really for the opportunity to be able to spend this time with you. Hopefully you're spending some time with family, taking time also to remember what this weekend is all about, what this time represents, and stopping, pausing, remembering, but then celebrating as well the freedom that we have as Americans because of those who have gone before us. Grateful for the opportunity to do that. Sharing today on this podcast a conversation that I had with my friend Chad Robichaux. Many of you, most of you perhaps, know Chad as the founder of the Mighty Oaks Foundation. He and I work together at Mighty Oaks, and both have served as Marines, both understand the importance of this holiday. And so we stopped to have a conversation about Memorial Day and what it represents, what it is, what it isn't, why it matters, and even how we as veterans should treat this holiday. So I hope that you will enjoy this conversation with myself and Chad Robichaux. My name is Jeremy Stallmaker, here with Chad Robichaux, and today's episode will be a little bit different than our typical. Today we are going to talk about Memorial Day. That's the weekend that we're coming into, and many of you, I would imagine, are going to have some time off, an opportunity to celebrate, spend time with family. All of these are good things. But in the process of doing those good things, we need to spend some time and remember what this day, what this weekend is really all about, what it represents, and why it's important to us. And I know, Chad, you and I have talked about this a lot in the past, but this is a very important day. This is not Veterans Day. This isn't a day simply to remember those who have served, but it's very specific to stop, pause, to remember those who have paid the price ultimately for their country with their lives, and then to reflect on what that means for us. And I think it's a very significant holiday for us.
Yeah, it's in the name, right? Memorial Day. It's the day we remember and memorialize those who paid that ultimate price for not just us as a nation, but for our freedoms and for the freedoms of people around the world that United States service members have done since 1775 when we first donned that uniform and went and defended our own nation, protected people around the world, defended people around the world, liberated people around the world at the cost of American lives. And this is a time that, like you said, we pause, we remember that. I'm just coming back from Camp Helena right now, where I spoke to 1st Marine Corps Marine Division, and speaking to those Marines there and reminding them of those who came before them, the shoulders that they stand on, and the price that they paid for our freedoms, and how that can never be, we can never stop fighting for that. Service members can never stop volunteering and risking their lives to go and put their lives on the line to go defend our country and defend people around the world. And unfortunately, the freedoms that we do enjoy in this country and the freedoms that we help other people have around the world, they come at a cost. And oftentimes that cost is human life, and that ultimate sacrifice of someone doing what we hear in the Bible says, no greater love than someone that lay down their life for their friend, or and even more so than their friend. We see American service members for the last 246 plus years. I think we've seen them lay down their lives not just for their friends, but for people that they never met before, people that they'd never seen before, and people that they never would meet. Just willingly sacrifice their lives for the cause of freedom and humanity and doing the right thing, and it's something that's worth pausing for a day and memorializing.
I think all the services do this to some extent, but the Marine Corps seems to be a little more invested in their history. And both of us coming up as Marines, one of the first classes you have, whether it's going through officer candidate school and selection or going through boot camp, whatever your source, you spend a lot of time very early on talking about your history. And most of that history is tied to people that gave their lives in defense of their country and these heroic acts. And these folks really are memorialized. And, I look back on that and I realize that so much of my desire to be a Marine and to do the things that I had the opportunity to do as a Marine were because of those folks who were memorialized, who were talked about, who were held up as an example to follow, because they not only did something difficult, but they did it in defense of something bigger than themselves. And they realized that laying down their life was a price worth paying for something, again, much larger than themselves, outside of themselves, whether it be their family, their country, the people that they were fighting next to on their left and their right, and the motivation that comes from that. And I think as Americans, one of the things that we have lost is a connection to our history and a connection to the price that was paid by so many for the freedom that we enjoy. And, we're in a time where many of us are struggling as Americans and struggling with what it means to be an American and all those things. And we need to struggle through that. But a big reason I think we struggle is because we think it came free somehow. That it's just one of those things that we have as Americans. We don't know where it came from or why we have it. And these freedoms that we take for granted, people really did pay for with their lives. And for us to not pause and remember that is a travesty. We live in the greatest country on the planet. We live in a country that has long stood for those who cannot stand for themselves, defended those who can't defend themselves, have done hard things in the defense of human freedom, not just American national freedom, but human freedom. And we need to remember the men and women who went before us and did that. And coming out of the wars that we've come out of, and we've always been at war, I guess, but our nation has been invested in war for 20 more years. It's important for us to pause and remember that. And I think we're lost if we fail to remain tied and anchored back to those who've given their lives for us.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I leave tomorrow for Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. I go speak there every year, and usually for Veterans Day, but this year I'm going for Memorial Day, and it's one of my I wouldn't say favorite events to do every year, but probably one of my most important events to do every year. Speak around the nation at a church, usually for Memorial Day, because for me personally, this isn't a theory of memorializing an idea of veterans who gave their lives. I know people by name, 15 people particularly that I knew personally that have given their lives in the cause of freedom that that I had to be part of burying over the last 20 years. And so many veterans right now in this time in our nation, after 20 years of war, can relate to that as well, where this isn't a day that we remember the concept or idea of veterans dying in service to this country, but actually remember Foster Harrington, Robert Cotto, those guys believed in something bigger than themselves. They went out there to defend people that couldn't defend themselves and paid with their life that ultimate sacrifice for the cause of freedom. It's very tangible for us. When we really think about that and how deep and passionately I feel about that, I know that we are only 0.5% of the nation that served in the military. And of that 0.5% of the nation that served in the military, only about 10% of those have actually ever seen combat, and probably half of that has actually lost friends in the battlefield. So you're talking about a very small percentage, maybe a fraction of a percent of our nation. I'd say 0.2, if we're trying to get accurate, percent of the nation has actually physically lost a friend or someone they know on the battlefield of freedom. And so when I get mad, and I do, and get frustrated with the divide in our nation and people that don't recognize and value what we have in America, I have to remind myself that, people don't get it the way I get it. But and they can't understand it the way I understand it, and how personal it is to me to know what we have here in America, what it costs to have what we have here in America, especially when you hear people say how terrible America is and how oppressed America is and how unfree America is. It's no, you don't get it.
Right.
It's still, despite all the baloney we see in our country right now, it's still the greatest country on earth. And that's not said arrogantly or proudly as an American. It is true. America is the greatest country on earth. I just had my interpreter come from Afghanistan, left real oppression, real bondage, and he's here in America right now, and he's just overwhelmed. This is actually, I heard of this.
Right.
We can actually do that. I'm allowed to do that. They're just overwhelmed right now. And but I know that I know it firsthand, and other people don't. The 99.75% of the world don't get it firsthand. So I feel like it's my job as a veteran that has had that experience, instead of just being mad that other people don't get it, to help share and communicate that message, to tell them stories about guys like Foster Harrington, about guys like Robert Cotto, about people like that who have paid that price so that they can understand as well. And so instead of just getting upset in the divide of our country and upset that people don't appreciate what we have, I want to do the best job I can to share and communicate the stories of these heroes who are memorializing this week. And that's what I'm going to do on Saturday night and Sunday as I speak in Broken Arrow. I'm going to tell those stories and help remind people of what this is really all about and why this is the greatest country and why we should live out the things that they died for. And I believe that's one of the things that we do, you and I do, in the veteran community. And every time we go speak at a church is, we help veterans who have survived to say, hey, you remember your friend that died? Well, they don't get to live out a good life because that's, their life is gone. But because of their sacrifice, you do. So what kind of life are you going to live? Are you going to live a life that they would be proud of? Or are you going to live a life of alcoholism and joblessness and being a victim and being a detriment to your family and a burden on society? What kind of life are you going to live when your friend paid that price so you and your fellow countrymen can enjoy these freedoms? What kind of life are you going to live? And we're able to tell veterans that at Mighty Oaks and active duty service members that at Mighty Oaks. And then and once that light bulb goes off for them, then we could help them live out those lives. And that's one of the things I think when I think about Memorial Day and what do we do, instead of just memorializing, what do we tangibly do to get back to that thought? That's one of the things we do at Mighty Oaks is we help people live that out and actually embrace those freedoms and live a good life and honor those who paid that price by living a good life and a productive life and a wholesome life. A life of giving back. And that's, I think that's something that we could do in the position we're in.
Yeah, that's great. And that insight is great. I think we're living at a time right now too, and maybe it's because there's so much turmoil in the world where people are trying to connect to something. And that's really important. I'm speaking at another church, not the one in Broken Arrow. I'm speaking at a church here in Southern California on Memorial Day. And the pastor several months ago scheduled me to come. And I said, what is it exactly that you want me to say? What do you want me to talk about? It's Memorial Day and I'll do that. But he said, I just want you to tell stories. I want you to help people reconnect. I want you to help people understand why we celebrate. It's exactly what you just said. And it's interesting coming from a pastor, right? Because it's not a holiday. It's not just a special service. It's not just a time to bring people in. He had a very specific objective. His church is in San Diego. He's got a lot of military people. And I think he has a lot of discouraged military people. And again, he wants that reconnect us, help us to understand why we're doing this. And you're exactly right. A lot of people who even serve have never had the experience of losing someone that they served with or someone they care about. I'll never forget the day that Shane Childers died. He was the first KIA of the war in Iraq. He was one of our lieutenants. I was on a screen line. His platoon was behind us clearing a set of buildings. And it's kind of a long story, but he was killed coming out of those buildings. And the call for medevac was made by him. He made his own medevac call. He died before he could be medevaced out. But you never forget that. You understand in real terms what that means. He's a prior enlisted Marine. He had served for, I think, 12 years, became an officer, wanted to lead Marines, loved his country, and gave his life on the first day of the war in Iraq. And you don't, if you can't connect to that personally, then it's hard to understand why it is that this is so important and why it is that we serve the way we do. I even think about some of the immigration stuff we're dealing with and all the, these conversations about people coming from other places. We had been in Baghdad. We made our way to Baghdad shortly after the war began, a couple months after. And one of the Marines that was killed there was Staff Sergeant Tejeda. Staff Sergeant Tejeda was a sergeant in one of our platoons. When I first came into the battalion, he was an immigrant from Mexico, had a lot of family in Mexico, loved the United States, and loved it so much he wanted to serve as a Marine and defend the United States. And really, that's what all of this means. And it's similar to what you were talking about. People coming here going, this is worth defending, this is worth being a part of, but we take it all for granted, and we need to be reconnected to that. So it's good for veterans who've had that experience to be able to share that experience with others. This is what it really means. And then you're exactly right. On the other side, for veterans who are struggling, that survivor's guilt, we talk about that a lot. I survived and they didn't, I made it and they didn't, I came home and they didn't, or maybe my service wasn't as impactful or as important. we absolutely, as Americans, but certainly as those who have served, need to continue serving outside of uniform, serving our families, serving our communities, living lives that matter, making a difference, because those that we memorialize and those that we remember gave their lives so that we could do that. And to do anything else, anything less, is a travesty, and it's a waste of life. And they would not want that at all. I sometimes when I've had the opportunity to lead a funeral, and I'll always ask the question, what do you think they would say if they could come back and tell us something right now? And I don't know in every situation, but I bet those Marines, those soldiers, sailors, and airmen who gave their lives fighting for our country, if they could come back, they'd say live and make a difference and do something with the freedom that was purchased. And man, how important that is. If we forget that, we've really forgotten what it is to be Americans, and we've got to stay connected to that.
Yeah, I'd say I've said it a couple of times. They live for what they died for, those freedoms, and embrace what we have in this country. I mean, I think it's a good. This is a day as we remember. It is a good time to recognize. Sometimes it takes something like chilling to recognize and value what you have, and I mean, in this country. And again, we have so many people that are bashing on America. And look, I'm not happy with where our country is right now. I'm not happy with the decisions that are being made policy-wise in our country. There's a lot of things I'm upset about, and I openly complain about. But man, that doesn't shadow the fact that I love this country. I'm thankful to be here. I'm thankful my kids get to grow up here. I'm thankful my grandkids will grow up here. I'm thankful my friend Aziz and his family get to begin a new life here. There's a reason that we have a border crisis. There's a reason that hundreds of thousands of people are lined up in a one-way line at the southern border to come into our country.
Yeah.
That line doesn't go the other way, right? I mean, they're not. You don't see a line. You see a lot of people talking like they're going to leave this country. You
All
see
the celebrities, right?
People like, hey, if so and so gets voted in, I'm going to.
Right.
They never go.
No.
They just run in your mouth, right?
You kind of wish they would.
Way. Yeah, I wish they would. I can name a few that I wish would go, and I'd even pay for their plane ticket. But that line goes one way, and I mean, there's so many people around the world wanting to come here, and if you live here already, you're privileged. You're privileged to live here, but you have to realize what it costs. And again, this is a day that we do that. You talked about Childers, I think you said.
Yeah, Sheen Childers, yeah.
And my first loss was probably one of my closest losses was Foster Harrington. People that have heard me talk about Foster Harrington quite a bit, because Foster and I we served together for 10 years. We tried out for recon together. We went through RIP together. We went through a couple of schools together. McQuist School, which is a really tough school in the Marine Corps. We went through McQuist School together, and he served him a wedding, and would come over to my house all the time, and the kids, very close to him, and Kathy was close to them. And as we transitioned units together. So we were together 10 years, and I was a team leader, and he was assistant team leader. We were going to Iraq together, and then I ended up trying out in the process of getting ready for that deployment. I tried out and was accepted to JSOC and went over to JSOC, and he took our team to Iraq. And so I went to Afghanistan, he went to Iraq, and we're both there, a couple of months. And I remember getting the call that he had been killed. He had been killed in a very, very selfless way. They had just captured a high value target, and there was an officer who was out in the street. They had secured the house and had that high value target captured. They were waiting for people to come to grab that guy, to take the guy away. And while they were waiting there was an officer that kept going out in the street to get better comms, and they were telling him, "Hey, sir, get out of the street." And so Foster, as a team leader, he just went out to provide cover. He's like, "I'm not gonna bug the guy. I'm just gonna provide cover for in case this guy needs help." And he took a single round right through his Kevlar, and he died instantly. And I had friends that I spoke to, eyewitnesses that were there and seen it happen. And man, I know this guy for 10 years, and he was always just in that moment, he was willing to put people before himself. Including people he didn't know, and he was one of those people that really believed in. A lot of guys, especially in special operations, are doing it we all do it for service, but
sure,
a lot of people will do it because you love the job, you want to do the job, you want to go around the world to do the coolest things and jump out of airplanes and scuba dive and shoot guys in the face. Like, that's that side of it too. But there's those of us, and Foster was probably amongst the most of them, that just really believed in serving other people and helping other people. Just a huge heart, and that's how he died, just being there, to provide cover for the lieutenant and to make sure he was safe, and then defending the people in Iraq that he believes that he was helping in those neighborhoods. And those are the stories that, for the last 46 years, those are the stories, story after story after story, over a million of them, that give us the country that we have today, give us the freedoms that we have today. And I'm sure thankful for it, regardless of what's going on in our country, regardless of the divide and the things that I don't agree with. I'm sure thankful for it.
Yeah, we complain a lot about what's happening in the country, but it's nice to be in a country where we can complain about it. And maybe we'll be shadow banned or whatever on social media, but no one's showing up at our house and dragging us off to a black site somewhere. And I mean, it's funny when we talk about political persecution in the United States. It's a very different conversation than what people have in just about every other country in the world, and we need to be aware of that as well.
I'm really upset by Instagram right now. And if Instagram, if you're listening, what you're doing on my page is wrong. What they're doing is wrong. But like you said, they're shadow banning me, they're silencing me, but no one's coming to my house and dragging me off to jail.
Right.
And
it's a matter of perspective, I think, and we have a lot of problems. That is not to say we don't have problems. It's simply to illustrate that the problems we have in the United States are very different than what's happening in a lot of other countries. I think a lot of veterans struggle with this holiday, probably for a lot of reasons, some that we've already talked about. And I try to remind veterans, those who have served, that this is a time to take your role as an educator very seriously. And I think veterans tend to get upset during this holiday, and they'll kind of take that like, well, so don't thank me for my service. That's not what this is about. They'll get upset about that. Or they'll scream at people who have never served because they'll say things like, you don't know what it's like and you don't understand. And it becomes a very dark time for a lot of veterans. But really, this is an opportunity for veterans to educate people who care, or they wouldn't say thank you for your service. They wouldn't do that. So they wouldn't put a flag on their house, right? They care. So educate them, help them, but also be appreciative that you live in a country where, although there are people who don't like you, that's not most people. Most people are thankful for the service of those who are serving, have served, and very thankful that there are those who have given their lives. And we as veterans need to educate and help people understand what this holiday is about, what it means, what it doesn't mean, and why they should be thankful for it.
Yeah, so I was going to say that too. Like, if you're a veteran and somebody says thank you for your service this weekend, don't be an idiot and get mad.
Right.
Like, don't be offended. Get off your high horse and understand that someone was trying to say something kind. Maybe they don't understand, and maybe it's a good opportunity for you to kindly and gently explain to them what this day is.
Yeah.
Not berate some nice person that's trying to do something kind. And this isn't a day that for you to be on your soapbox and use it as a platform to elevate yourself. It's a day for remembering those who paid that price, and to just remember that. And like you said, it's a great opportunity for the veteran community to educate the American public on what this weekend's about.
Yeah.
And with that, don't go asking for your Memorial Day discount. Probably nothing more than that. That means you don't know what it's about. And,
right. Right. You think it's about you too. You just don't want anyone to remind you that. You talk about Mighty Oaks and the work that we do and why we do it. And a lot of it is because of an understanding of the price that was paid and people who've gone before us. And that's so important. We talk about purpose, we talk about meaning, we talk about identity, and it's amazing how many people get caught up in what was. They cannot move beyond in their personal lives what happened in the military or someone that they lost, someone they cared about. And what we do at Mighty Oaks is to really help people understand, whether they've served or not, whether they're combat veterans or not, whether they've lost anyone or not, that their purpose is not wrapped up in who they were, what they wore, where they came from, but what God has set in front of them. And that's so freeing and so liberating. And then you can look back on things like Memorial Day, whether it's, even in the military sense, there may be other people in your life who have given their lives for you. We think of moms and dads and people in the community and others who have served you. Well, this is a good time to remember those people as well, and to live your lives in light of what those people have sacrificed for you. And we have the privilege, just about every week to do that for men and women who have served and who are struggling a little bit, to get them back on track and help point them in the right direction.
Yeah, in fact, we have at Mighty Oaks, we have 2 sessions going on right now. They're going to be wrapping up here tonight or in the morning, and one in the woods in Texas and West Texas, and then one at our ranch at Mr. Straker's Bill Straker's ranch in Ohio. So 2 groups of graduates going to be produced from Mighty Oaks right now, and that's exactly what they spend the week doing is really learning about really identifying the hardships that they went through in their life, how the lessons that can be learned from those things, how to take personal responsibility for those things, and how to live the best life possible based on aligning their lives with the lives that God created them to live, really calibrate their lives with the biblical principles that God has laid out for us. And what better way to honor those who have fallen than knowing that they didn't just die, but died for us, and for us to live out those freedoms and us to live in this country, than to live the best possible lives that we can live, the most productive and the productive lives that produce. We as God's creation, we're created to be producers and not consumers, and how to take the life that we have left, the life that we've been given by those who have provided this freedom for us. Whether you're veterans or not, other people have provided this freedom for you. To what better life that we can live than to live those principles out, to embrace those freedoms, to calibrate our lives very intentionally every day to the lives that we were created to live and produce in our homes as good husbands and wives and parents and friends, and then produce in our communities and give back in our communities, and ultimately in our country, and even beyond our country, but going around the world and giving back. And right now in our veteran community, as we see crises in the last year in Afghanistan and Ukraine and places like that, more than any other group that I've seen in these places I've been, the people that are volunteering to go and serve are those from the faith community and from the veteran community. Right. Those are the 2 groups that we're seeing serve, and I think that's for honoring of those who pay that price to say, look, I'm still here, and I'm going to do something important with the life I have and the freedoms that I've been given, and the opportunity I have to still be on this planet and make the most out of it. And we get to help empower the veteran community and the active duty military community to do that through Mighty Oaks. And I'm sitting here talking to you, but I'm echoing it to our audience. It's one of the greatest privileges I've had in my life to be able to be part of that, and we do that. I say we loosely because I get to be part of it by being surrounded by an amazing team of people like Brandon Kunith and our programs team that just do that amazing work.
Yeah, and I think the model of Mighty Oaks really speaks to what I wish everyone would do on Memorial Day weekend. People ask how we do what we do. Really, it's men and women who have served, who were broken to one degree or another, who are struggling, who are hurting, who found hope and direction through a program. They've all been to one of our programs. And then understanding they now have a responsibility to do something with that information and with that hope. They get involved, we disciple, train, help them understand leadership, and then they come back and they teach and they train and they help and they offer hope to those who are coming up behind them. And really, to me, that's what this whole weekend represents. It represents serving, remembering those who have served, remembering those who can't speak for themselves, and speaking those things. It's giving back. It's turning around and not saying, I'm going to mourn for you, although there is mourning that takes place, but I'm going to live a productive, valuable, contributing life because of what you've done. And really, that's the same model we use at Mighty Oaks. It's not me telling you what I think you should do. It's me helping you to understand the path that I traveled and how I move forward and me offering you some tools to do the same. And I think that's very, very powerful. And again, that's the model we should follow Memorial Day weekend in our homes, in our families, in our communities, in our churches, and certainly as we try to help other people who are hurting.
Yeah, there's times I think, and I'm sure you do too, there's times that I pause and think like, man, like I look at Mighty Oaks and I wake up and I'm like, I am so fortunate to be able to do this job, to work with the amazing people I do.
Right.
And I'll be honest, like I'm really proud of the work that we do. There's not many things that I feel like in my life, even in military, there was things that I was proud of, but I was never like, I'm proud of myself for that.
Yeah, right.
I think
Right.
Mighty Oaks has been one of those times where I know other people have been the contributor to being here, and God's grace is certainly why I'm here. But there's been times where I'm like, man, I'm really, really proud of myself for choosing to take this path in my life. And there's times I thought like, man, if Foster Harrington was here, if Robert Cottle was here, like they'd be really proud of me.
Yeah.
They would want to be part of it. I know Robert Cottle would want to be part of it. I know Foster would want to be part of it because he's just such a big heart for helping people.
Yeah.
And even though, well, he was a Jew, but he was a Messianic Jew. We used to call him G.I. Jew, the Great American Hebrew. But yeah, he would definitely have they would want to be part of it, and they'll be proud of me. They'd be proud of our family. They'd be proud of the work that we're doing, and that makes me feel good. And that's what we should be doing.
You're going to be speaking this weekend. You mentioned that. Talk about that church a little bit, where you're going to be, so people maybe in that area can come and hear you speak. Yeah,
I was going to say the same for you. So, I'm going to be heading out tomorrow to I'll be Broken Arrow, which is the Tulsa area of Oklahoma, and I'll be speaking in the Rose Garden area of Tulsa. And you can find out more if you go to Broken Arrow, the Assembly at Broken Arrow. Their website. You can just Google the Assembly at Broken Arrow, and there'll be church times for Saturday night in the Rose Garden area, and then I'll be at the actual Assembly's main campus on Sunday morning, both services. I'm going to speak. The first part of my message is going to be on Memorial Day and the things we talked about today. The second half of my message, or second part of my message, would be about some of the rescues we did in Afghanistan to rescue the 17,000 people in Afghanistan, and how the veteran community outside of uniform rose up to do that and that work. And then we'll close with talking about some of the things we're doing in Ukraine right now. And so if you're in Oklahoma, I'd love to see you drive out, even if you have to make a little drive.
Sure.
Come and see us Saturday night or Sunday morning. And again, you go to look on the website, Google the Assembly at Broken Arrow.
That's good. Yeah, that's a great church. One of our board members, the pastor there, just an incredible congregation. So much love for the veteran community, but also the first responder community there. Absolutely incredible church. I would highly recommend it. I have, even this week, recommended people attend there if they're in the area. I'll be speaking, for those that are interested in living in Southern California. I'll be at Canyon Ridge Baptist Church. Canyon Ridge Baptist Church. It's in the city of San Diego. So if you are in the area, the pastor there is Chris Chadwick. He's a friend of mine. We've been friends for, a long, long time. But great church there. It's right outside of the Naval Air Station. And not too far from the Navy base. So a lot of Navy folks there, Marines there as well, big military community, but just doing a great job. I'll be talking obviously about Memorial Day and sacrifice. The title of my message that I'll be preaching that day is No Longer Broken, and talking about how in Christ we're not broken, that there is hope. And we sometimes think that we are broken, but in Christ there's victory. And so we'll talk about that as well. So that's in San Diego. So 2 opportunities there. Other things that are happening in the Mighty Oaks world are listed on our website. So if you go to mightyoaksprograms.org, mightyoaksprograms.org, you can see other events, other things happening. And in fact, Chad and I speak a lot. I think I'm speaking at a church, just about every weekend in June and most of July, and then all of August. And I know, Chad, you're out probably the same, I would imagine. But most of those are listed on our Mighty Oaks website, so you can find those and follow along if you're in the area. So that'd be awesome.
And even if you can't go where me and Jeremy are, if you're even not a churchgoer, I definitely would encourage you to find a church that's celebrating Memorial Day.
Yeah.
Because man, that's one of the things I love about our country is every Memorial Day, churches around the country really do a great job of honoring veterans and honoring those who have paid that price. So, if you're not a church, or get online, Google it, find a good church in your community that's honoring Memorial Day, and go and pay respects at that church. And then you know what? Another thing I think it's important to say: go home after church.
Yeah.
And enjoy it. Celebrate, barbecue. Enjoy. I know a lot of people are like, this isn't a day to party and stuff. Man, it is.
Sure.
It is. Light up the barbecue, fire up the grill, drink a glass of iced tea or whatever you do. But enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Celebrate.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. I mean, that's why those lives were laid down, so you could actually have the freedom to do that.
Yeah.
The freedom to go to church and worship. The freedom to be able to light up a barbecue in your neighborhood, even though that some of the homeowners Nazis are going to try to tell you how to do it. We need to be reminded. But no, I mean, enjoy it. And the veterans that are out there, that's just a reminder, like, this isn't so sacred that you can't have a barbecue.
Right.
That's the whole point.
That is
enjoy yourself. But in doing that, take a moment to remember why you can do that.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good word and a good place to end. Appreciate you joining us. Please, as has been mentioned over and over again, enjoy this weekend. Take some time to stop, pause, to reflect. If you have kids, tell them what this weekend is all about. If you're a veteran, do your best to be an educator this weekend and to help folks understand in a kind way what it is we celebrate. Appreciate you joining us. If you are not yet subscribed to the Situation Report, you need to make sure that you are subscribed. Also, you can find us on YouTube. Go over to YouTube, search for The Situation Report. You'll find our channel there. Or on Salem Media Network, Salem Podcast Network. You can find us either on Salem Podcast Network. You can find the audio there, or better yet, go to salemnow.com and you will find the video. Appreciate you joining us. Thank you, and we will talk to you next time.
God bless, guys.
Appreciate that conversation. Hope that you did as well. It's very helpful for us from time to time to pause, to remember, to reflect, to understand why these days are important, why these times are important, why it's important to remember sacrifice, and then as we do, to go forward and live our lives well. Really appreciate you joining me today. Thank you for watching and or listening. We will talk to you next time.